movement now. Now.
And welcome to the Week in Focus. It has been an eventful week. The Kiambaa aftermath. What next? Jubilee Party licking its wounds after registering a fatalist in the elections, and UDA with about 50% of the Mount Kenya votes. There's this call for victory or going back to the drawing board and craft a way to win the other 50 come the 2022 general elections. The campaigns have now shifted down to the coast with ODM leader Raila Odinga, DP Ruto, and President Uhuru, who has toured the region this week. What is it at the coast? The votes, perhaps? This and more. And this is also the last week of the IEBC Commissioner interviews. What do you make of the process? The hashtag is Week in Focus. I am Nancy Nalima. Welcome to the broadcast. With me on set is John Wangai, lawyer, political analyst. Karibu. And on the far end, Jacob Sangwera, who is a lawyer and political analyst.
Thank you very much.
Yes, gentlemen, welcome. So it has been the week after the Kiambaa general elections, and we have seen different reactions. We know that the Jubilee candidate, Kariri Njama, is going to court to petition the process. And now this has brought out a lot of gaps within the Jubilee party. So what next, Tungai?
Thank you so much, Narima, for hosting us today. First, let me say that as per the law, if a candidate in an election, once the IBC has formally announced or declared the votes on a particular election, I think that is formally, no, the other course of action now is resorting to the courts. As Kariri Njama, Jubilee candidate going to court, I think this is just trying to ease the pain, because there is nothing substantive that can happen in the courts, because we know that, for example, the court process is a bit time-taking and expensive as well, and we are aware that come early next year, Parliament will be dissolved, so that members can go and prepare for the general election. Yes.
So you're saying these are the kicks of a dying horse?
Yeah, these are just strategies to try and, excite the, supporters. But in real sense, there is nothing substantive that is going to happen in the courts.
So, Jacob, and Jubilee Party, there have been a section of leaders, a section of members of the Jubilee Party that are blaming the party leadership. And we saw Raphael Tuju saying that he's not going to resign as a Secretary General for the party. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Thank you very much for hosting me. I want to say that Kariri Njama was a very popular person in the first place in that particular constituency. Remember, he ran for election in 2017 and was competing with one of the most popular rich man in that constituency, Paul Koinange, and he lost narrowly to him. But the just concluded elections demonstrated that actually Kariri Njama was a very popular person on the ground, only that he was in a party that was, the fortunes of the party were diminishing, Jubilee Party. Otherwise, had he been on the other side, probably would have won by 80%. As to why he's going to court, I mean, it's his constitutional right to go to court, and we only wish him well in court, and because you cannot buy him from going to court to challenge if he's not satisfied with the election. And so on what some section of members of our Jubilee Party are saying about the leadership. I think, again, we must look at the kind of persons who are talking also. What is their particular interest in that party? Are they seriously, honestly talking about bad leadership? Are they addressing the bad leadership to the right persons, or they are focusing on wrong persons?
But
So
you see,
example,
if I can just cut you in, the Jubilee Party has registered a number of losses
yes.
in the different by-elections. Yeah, so they won in Muguga, but that was again barely. Then they lost. Kiambaa there were the campaigns that everyone was watching out for, because they would set the tone now, the voice of Mount Kenya, come the 2022 general elections. So does this mean that it is a problem with the leadership of the party, or could it be that maybe the party is going to be disbanded?
Maybe I can take you back to a bit of history, just to show you that what normally happens during the time when a president is exiting office. Back then, KANU was a very popular party, and it kept Moi in power for long. And during the time when he was about to leave, the party's popularity dwindled because he was not going to be a candidate anymore. And by 2002, a new party had emerged, and which took the wave. And you recall in 2000, just before Kibaki left office in 2013, he had PNU, and PNU was a very popular party, you can say, in Mount Kenya. And but coming to elections, because he was not going to be a candidate, the party completely lost his grip on the ground. Remember when he went to campaign for his candidate in Othaya, his home ground, he lost with his party. So generally what is happening, not just what has happened at Kiambaa or Muguga or other areas where Jubilee has lost, is simply because it is what has been happening in the country when a party does not have a visible presidential candidate. Definitely it will lose. It will lose
look like there's a future.
But for the persons who are complaining about the leadership of the party, I think they are doing the right thing, but they are addressing the wrong persons. If they are complaining about Tuju, Murade, they should address the right person, the president. None of them has mentioned the president, because the party leader is the president. Tuju is merely acting on instructions from the party leader. They should blame the president if there is a problem with the party in Jubilee. Okay.
And when we talk about the Kiambaa,
Yes.
When UDA won, and so with about 50% of the vote, but we do know that Mount Kenya, it counts in heavily in the elections. But so if he gets 50%, then he would need more if he is to become president at all, being the only candidate who has launched his ambition actually for the 2022 general election. So should he be celebrating right now, or should he be going back to the drawing board, back to work?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think, number one, yes, he should be celebrating. Because first UDA was formed, I think, late last year or something. It is barely, I think, 7 months in the political scene. That was competing against Jubilee, a party that was formed 4 or 5 years ago, where we saw a good number of parties were folded to form one big party, that is Jubilee Party. So I think basing first on the time that both parties were formed, I think number one, you have to celebrate. Number two, as my brother said, Jubilee's candidate was a very popular candidate on the ground. So basically, and then there's something else also we cannot forget. For a long time, the Jubilee candidate was a member of the Hustler Nation, the so-called Hustler Nation, and he was paid a huge amount of money so that he can value the Jubilee ticket.
Allegedly?
Yeah. It is on record. And so I think the popularity of the candidate, that guy was so popular. Number two, also he was also a member of the Hustler Nation. So most of the votes also that he got were part of the Hustler Nation vote. So I think basing also on the two aspects, I think They are doing good. They are doing good. It's a good trajectory. It's a good start for them. And there's, if they keep on the consistency, there is something to celebrate.
And what can we say following the campaigns? We know that UDA campaigned heavily.
Yes.
And we saw even the bigwigs, they were at the ground.
Yes, yes.
And campaigning for weeks on end. So should the president have campaigned for Kariri Njama, or that would have looked like he had stooped too low or intimidated by his deputy?
Yeah, I think in a way he campaigned for him, because we saw him hosting him in State House, and he telling members of the constituency members of Kiambaa, this is my person, bring him to assembly so that we can work with him. So in a way he tried to campaign for him. But one thing that pleased me and a lot of young people, is that the strategy that UDA is using is strategy that is working, involving a lot of young leaders and young people. And by involving young leaders and young people, you're seeing the fruits of the same. The reason why the UDA campaigned heavily, I think this is something also that there's a narrative that is trying to change. For example, you saw in Juja, Jubilee fielded the late MP's wife, widow, and they lost terribly. So I think this is also a trajectory that is changing, that the Mwananchi is supreme. And if you want any votes to all the members to all aspirants who are coming in the general election, let no one deceive you that there is something called deep state. There is no deep state or system. The Wanjiko, the popular common person, is supreme.
The voice of the people.
Yeah, the voice of the people. In the legal term Latin, we say vox populi, vox dei, that the voice of the people is the voice of God. So let no one lie to Kenyans that there is a deep state or system. The voice of the people is supreme, and in any election, let members of the public turn out in large numbers and elect their favorite candidate. No election will be stolen. Let people exercise their democratic right to vote. And it is something worth noting that in Kiambaa we had less than 30% voter turnout. For the youth, it was less than 15%. I think this is something that even IBC should try and create awareness, so that come next year we should have a good number turnout here.
Okay, Jake, can you weigh in on the same before we move on?
Yes. I just want to say that you cannot use the by-election in Kiambaa entirely to determine whether
Mount Kenya?
Whether that is the direction of Mount Kenya. You cannot use it like that generally, because as he said, possibly there are people who are voting for Kariri Njama and they are actually loyal to William Ruto. And as people, what generally people are saying is that it appears like the bigger percentage of votes in Mount Kenya right now could be with Ruto, independent of what outcome is in by-elections. Some of the persons who vote, in a by-election, people vote for, just even in a general election, persons vote for the president and vote for a different candidate. That does not mean they don't want the presidential candidate, just preferences on who they prefer as
Could be just a specific
candidate, person in that particular case. And then you asked about why the UDA had invested a lot of time and resources in that campaign. Jubilee is a party that had been in that area for long. And a lot of resources had been used to market that party, Jubilee. It had an MP, it has been in power, it has been the one holding the leadership in that particular county. So for you to dislodge it you need to also do more.
Intensity.
That is why they needed to do more, because that party was already so deeply connected to the people. Yes.
Okay, and now let's move on to the campaigns right now. Immediately after the Kiambaa by-elections, we saw the deputy president at the coast, then we saw Raila at the coast, and the president, who has even launched a few projects at the region. So what is it in the coastal region, so that after we're done with Mount Kenya, trying to see what's going to be ahead of 2022, then now everybody moves to the coastal region?
Yes.
What do you think is at the coast?
Well, what I think is the cause is that This man called Ruto is, causing a lot of sectors to have, sleepless nights. You saw him go to Coast, and a day later, the former Prime Minister was there. Yesterday, we saw the President giving title deeds and launching other projects, trying to neutralize what he had done over the weekend. So I think what is generally is happening is, I think some sectors of political divide are getting some jittery over the influence of the deputy president. And so I think that is why they went to try and neutralize in the coast region. This is a region that predominantly has been an ODM region. But we saw last year in Msambweni that things are changing, the narrative is changing, and that is why they are trying to go and neutralize what he is doing. I think they saw that, it's not business as usual. If we sit down and relax, then things will be, the paradigm will have shifted. So I think what is happening here is more of trying to neutralize what the deputy president is doing, because the hostile nation narrative. The hostile nation narrative is, getting popular with the masses day by day.
Okay. Jacob, can you weigh in on the same?
Yes. Coast is very important now. It may be one of those swing counties in the next election. And
it actually has over 1.7 million voters.
Very critical. And look at the composition. Coast is composed of very many people, not just Waswahili. It's very many people who have gone there.
Pretty metropolitan.
Watu wa bara. And a lot of persons also from Eastern. So we know that it is going to be a critical area. And when you see the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, and the President going there just after they have heard Ruto is there, it shows you that there's information they have about what is happening on the ground, and they must counter. But you see, the right thing they will have done is to have their own strategy, is not to maybe follow him after every. They will have just had their own strategy on how they will deal with the coast. And there is something happening at the coast. Not the governors in the coast are not working together very well right now. I understand that Governor Amason Kingi is not comfortable with the ODM leadership. In this, what is not reported of what just happened yesterday, but what I am aware is that the leadership in the coast is not united, and some of the leaders in the coast prefer to have their own party now, and that will have an impact, of course, directly to the leadership of Raila Odinga. They have to do something about it.
Okay, and then the coastal region, if we give the 2017 statistics, they largely voted the NASA party, largely. But we saw Deputy President's victory at Msambweni. Yes. So could this be a sign for him, maybe now thinking, if I got a win at Msambweni, then perhaps there's hope for garnering more votes in 2022?
Yes, yes, definitely. I think from the beginning he has been saying that the issue of regions and tribes, that notion that you must be affiliated to certain tribal kingpins, with the support of certain tribal kingpins, so that you can get the vote from the region. I think the hostile nation narrative has tried to wither away that kind of notion, and that is why Coast, which predominantly has been a NASA or ODM region for a long time, but from what we saw in Msambweni, that was a clear win in Msambweni, because it was there was a difference, I think, of around 5,000 on something. And we remember that Mr. Mheshimiwa Dori was an ODM member, the late. And now Faisal Beida, who came in, we remember that he was an independent candidate. He vied even not even with a party. And so this is something that is changing, and the area that these guys in the political scene know that Kenyans at the moment are not interested again in the tribal debates, in the regional kingpins. Red people sell their agenda, they let them sell their manifesto, and then Kenyans will decide.
And we saw the president talk about the BBI still popularizing the BBI at the coast. And we are waiting the verdict of the same just next month in August.
Yes, yes.
So does the president know something that we don't? Is the BBI are they going to give a verdict so we can continue on to the referendum? Yes, Jacob.
Of course, the president normally knows much than we know, because he's much more informed. He has more information than any citizen of Kenya. But as to whether he's aware of what is going to happen about the BBI is another question. But again, to keep his brother also happy, he must always speak to it, say that he still supports and he has hope about the BBI, and to keep his friends who heavily rely on the BBI so much for purpose of formation of coalitions, he has to continue talking about it. That is, so he is right to continue speaking so that he's not seen to be like a person who has already withdrawn. And maybe by speaking like this, he may have influence in a way. We don't know about the outcome, but he has more information than we have.
Okay,
Yes, and could we possibly have the referendum before next year's general elections? Is that a possibility?
There's that one, something that I can assure Kenyans. I don't foresee a referendum before next year's election.
And what about Chairman of IEBC, Wafula Chebukati? He went ahead and opened up tenders for the same referendum.
Yes, yes. The law gives IEBC, I think, 8 years to conduct the boundaries review, and that one they have been given up to, I think, 2024. The tender was around 3 years tender contract. So I think generally it may not be about this year or next year, maybe immediately after the election. And also something about the BBI. The reason why I'm saying that it may not happen before the election. We understand that, yes, the Court of Appeal will be giving the judgment on 20th August next month. And basing on the judgment, either party is the party that will feel that I'm not satisfied. They have a recourse to appeal to the apex court, Supreme Court. That will take more time. That, I think, judgment, we can have the judgment earliest, maybe it's in April next year, and we have an election in August. Also, if we read the Kriegler reports, and now we have the BBI report, and we have never implemented these reports. The Waki report, the Dungu report, the Kriegler report, the GLC report. The Kriegler report, which was written immediately after the 2007 violence.
Election.
Yeah, election. It clearly indicated that you cannot have, some of these election changes 1 year before election. 1 year before election, I think it should lapse, I think, in a couple of days, because we're having an election in 9th August next year. So you cannot have you cannot change any election laws 1 year before election. So I think that is why I'm saying that the BBI, maybe if they really want to continue with that, maybe they can use now the parliamentary initiative. For a referendum, I don't foresee it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we'll be coming back to talk more about, of course, the arrest of Rigathi Gachagua, the IEBC preparedness. Yeah. Of course, the commissioners' interviews have now entered the last week. I'll be talking more about that. We take a very short break here on Weekend Focus. Don't go too far.
Welcome to Look Up Guest House, Retreat and Prayer Center. When you first come in, we will be happy to receive you at our reception, then proceed to our cozy and well-equipped accommodation facilities. We aim to provide our guests with a unique, comfortable and worthwhile experience. Here at Look Up Guest House, we provide our guests with a continuous supply of room amenities. a cool environment for all your retreat activities.
Look Up Guest House Retreat and Prayer Center. For reservation, contact us on info@lookupguesthouse.org or call us on 0746 788 707.
Many of your problems, you, and I mean you, must pray for them. It is only in the place of prayer where you establish a relationship between you and God, because there are battles you must fight. Mpendwa, kuna vita zinakugojea upigane, na usipopigana utapigwa. You either fight or you will be fought. Kama unaweza kaa kwa Mungu abadilishe what you think about money. What you think about money is not what the Bible says about money. Wewe hujui hivyo. Kilio kingine unalia hapo. Shida zingine zimekufuata tangia uzaliwe. Ungetafuta dhabihu nzuri, uombe nayo mbele ya Mungu. Hiyo shida ingeenda haraka, ingeenda asubuhi.
Neno la Hekma with Pastor Ruben Thuo. Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. only on Look Up TV.
You guys have to tweet about this.
What phone is this? Hey, looks good. How much is it?
You haven't heard of the Optiven offer?
No.
I must excuse you to invest too. Optiven has this amazing offer. If you make a commitment of 900k in any of their value-added projects, you get rewarded with a cool smartphone, bro.
Like, follow, subscribe, click the notification button. Join the Look Up TV movement now.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Look Up TV. The hashtag is Week in Focus with me, Nancy Nalima. And today we talk about the political intrigues throughout the week. With me on set, right next to me is John Wangai, who is a lawyer, political analyst. Jakan at the center, Jakan Sangwera, who is a lawyer, political analyst. And now joining us is Kalistas Wafula, who is a political commentator. Yes, Kalistas, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
Yes, and you can also engage with me at Look Up TV on Twitter, Look Up TV on Facebook, and using the SMS number 20374. Let's continue with the conversation. So, Kalistas, I will let you weigh in on the coastal, wooing the coastal vote before we continue. But before that, Rigathi Gachagua, the MP for Madeira, was arrested Friday morning, and he is a leader who's allied to the deputy president. And a week or two ago, the deputy president in an interview mentioned that people who are allied to him suddenly get visits by the DCI officers. So what do you make of that, Kalistas?
I think we should let the law take its own course, because he was arrested because of the allegation that is very serious. The way they are handling maybe selective justice, I'm not subscribed to an idea of selective justice, but if he was arrested because of the allegation I've had, then let the law take its own course. We are not supposed to politicize everything, because we know all these politicians are thieves. All of them are looting public money. It is only that the current leadership, they don't have that intention of fighting corruption. That's why they select. When you are not supporting them, they come for you. But if they have come for you, and you really committed that crime, I don't see any problem. Let them arrest all of them. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so do you think we are politicizing even arrests?
Yes. Just like my brother said, I think, this is selective justice. And I condemn such, moves and motives to settle political score using, independent bodies, DCI, DPP, ESSC. Those are independent bodies that should exercise, their powers without any undue influence or coercion. But now what we are seeing is, the state is intimidating leaders that are allied to the deputy president, leaders that are saying not to support the state and the system. They're intimidating them using the DCI, the DPP, and the ESCC. And when you look at most of these cases which go to courts, most of these cases, the DPP usually lose a lot of cases because these are cases which have no merit, they are meritorious, they are frivolous, scandalous, and it's just an abuse of the court process. So I think, as a country here, we are doing it wrong. Our forefathers fought for independence so that we can enjoy the political rights and other rights without any kind of coercion, kind of intimidation. We saw the young Turks fighting for the multi-party democracy so that people can exercise their political rights in whichever camp they wish to. So I think this is highly retrogressive, and they are taking us back to the old days, and we must stand up and condemn this with the strongest terms possible.
Okay, Jikan, do you think as a country then we are in limbo because we could be politicizing that arrest, but again, Rigathi could be at fault? So where do we stand as it is?
First of all, it is something that is really very common nowadays. Arrest of perceived political opponents or people who have all contrary opinion to the political space, especially to those ones who are against the authorities. They are being harassed, they are arrested, but they're not presented even in court. There are no specific case that proceeds to anywhere. So I'm afraid because, in the past, even during the days of Moi, when Moi was just about to leave office, say 1-2 years before he left office, he never arrested anybody. He had decided to become a different person, connect with people, create friendship in a way. So from 1998-99, he had changed completely. He did not arrest judges. He did not arrest any political opponent, because in any case he had no interest with the outcomes much about himself. He was not running for office. But unfortunately, I also did not see this with President Kibaki when he was leaving office, and I did not see at any time when he was all over arresting political opponents. But this is happening in the current regime.
My concern would be, so are we wrong then if the state chooses to arrest individuals, given that we lose 2 billion a single day? That's what the president mentioned. So then we should not be making arrests because it would look like it's political?
What we are saying, where persons are found to have committed crimes, like for example, what I hear of money laundering and so on, let's be judicial. Let's remove politics from the arrests. Let's remove comedy from the process of arresting people. Let us leave agencies which are established by the Constitution to do that work independently without selecting perceived opponents. Kenyans can see that the kind of persons, most of them who are being arrested are people who are aligned to some side of the political affiliation. And it used to happen during Raila Odinga's time also. His political supporters were being harassed by the authorities. So it is something that is very common when you seem to be against or hold contrary opinion to the authorities, and which is something that all of us must condemn, and it is something that all of us must really wish that it doesn't happen, because it doesn't bring anything better our country, especially now that we are heading towards the next election. Okay. But people who have committed crimes must be arrested and must be charged in court, and we leave it to the judicial system to deal with them effectively. Okay,
Kalisa, so then how do we separate and say that this arrest is political and this one is in line with the judicial process?
How
do we demystify?
We cannot say that there is a arrest that is political and this one is not. What I'm trying to say, this is a country of impunity. And the president himself is the one championing impunity, because he has teamed up with the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. They want to overthrow the to overthrow the basic structure of our constitution through BPI, something that Kenyans have resisted. And the reason as why I'm saying the president is not willing, he's sending wrong signals. He does not want to go home. That one is coming out clearly, because the High Court found the PPI process unconstitutional, and it was declared null and void. The president went to the Court of Appeal. I expect the president to lead by example, to respect court, because the utterances that he has made at the coastal region, it shows that he does not respect the constitution. He's running a risk whereby after going home, he will face the same charges Jacob Zuma has faced and is now in prison. We want this country to be led by laws, and we want the president to respect the constitution. And also, the former prime minister, he alleged that he fought for rule of law, freedom of speech, but whatever he is doing to support the current president to change the constitution so that he extend his power, he take care of his interests, I think that is giving a wrong picture, and that these people must be condemned, because they are moving up and down. I have heard Raila Odinga talking about rural focus. That was an idea of Moi during early 80s, where they used to support wakulima, farmers. Okay. Therefore, these people need to retire, both the president and the prime minister, because I have seen even Raila Odinga is now focusing on outdated ideas. I've heard William Ruto talk about bottom-up economy, and he's supplying people with wheelbarrows. I don't think wheelbarrows are a facilitator of bottom-up economy. So these people are liars, and we have so many.
So when you say these people, you mean all our potential presidential candidates?
All of them are liars, but there are some presidential candidates. For instance, there is Dr. Moise Kitui. That guy stand out to be the best for this country, because when you compare him with the rest, when he came, he started bringing a conversation of building the capacity of enterprise Kenya, whereby the country will focus more on supporting small business community, creating industries to help this country have the capacity to generate employment and income for the country. Now that we have such like people running for the presidency, we don't have any reason to go for Ruto or Raila. Raila has been talking about Canaan. He told us that he is taking people to Canaan. He went alone. He even disregarded the agreement that they had with his core principles. Therefore, these are people who are not supposed to be trusted by anyone. We need to support people like Dr. Moise Kitui. We need to consider people who are running for presidents regardless of their tribes, because what Uhuru Kenyatta is doing with the Raila Odinga is generating tribal debate, whereby people will focus on tribes. Now Kikuyu are on leadership. It is perceived that this country is run by a person from Kikuyu land. But when you go to central region, people are suffering. They don't have employment. It doesn't mean that when you give Mutahi Kagwe job, you will have help to Kikuyu. Kikuyu will continue suffering. Okay. So we want a conversation to change. Let us focus on people. We want to see their ideas. We want them to, like William Ruto must run on record. If he's telling the country that he wanted the hustler narrative to be discussed in our political discourse, why did he fail to do it in the first time? He said that the handshake has frustrated his relationship with the president. Him himself is also a failure, and he wants to cheat people. After he has gotten power, he will do more harm than Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay.
Yes.
You're obviously a very avid supporter of Moise Kitui there. And so let's talk about, now that you mentioned Moise Kitui, let's look at what the country is going to look like next year. in the 2022 general elections. Is it possible for a leader to just win independently with their party, or must we have coalitions?
Yeah. To start with, next year's general elections, we know there are only two, serious contenders, the House on the Hill, as the Deputy President and the former Prime Minister. People like Mukisa Kitui have a huge task to do. But yeah, as in the history of our country, what has been happening has been, coalitions, teaming up with, one person and the other. But now what is happening currently is that, the narrative is changing. There was a coalition of, tribal kings. But now we are talking of a coalition of like-minded individuals. So I think we are going in the right trajectory. If we continue this way, we will, easily achieve the Vision 2030 agenda. And the big four, we forgot the big four, now we are in the BBI, so the Vision 2030 agenda. In the next year's election, people must team up based on, ideas, agendas, manifestos, and not, the tribal kings, the tribal cocoon that is happening at the moment. And that is why, in a big way, I applaud the Deputy President for bringing such a narrative. We have seen in the recent past, just as my brother said, that for the first time, we are hearing the former Prime Minister talking about, urban Lulo, because of the, discussion, the political debate that is happening now, that we are changing the focus from, being tribal to, being agenda-based. I think that's an agenda and issue-based. I think even going into next year's election, we need, we need coalitions that are like-minded, not tribal coalitions of some sort.
Mm-hmm. But when you talk about that, and not tribal kind of coalitions,
yes,
but the nature of our politics is that, let's take NASA, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know if it exists anymore, but if we take NASA, then we had ODM leader Raila Odinga, who is popular across the western part of Kenya. So he has the Nyanza vote and a huge chunk of the western vote. Then Kalonzo brings in the Ukambani vote. Mudavadi and Wetangula, they consolidate the western votes as well.
Yes.
So it has mostly been about the numbers that you reckon. If we take a look at Jubilee, that was formed by President Uhuru, who of course had a lot of votes from the Mount Kenya region, and the Deputy President, who enjoys a lot of popularity across the Rift Valley. So this is the nature of our politics. Between now and next year, August, what's going to change really?
I think already we have started seeing the results. If, UDA can win in Msambweni, UDA can win in Juja, UDA can win in Nakuru, it can win in Nyandarua, it can win in Kiambaa. I think, and at the moment, the Deputy President has not talked of his deputy also, any form of coalition. I think at the moment, the hustler narrative is, is so much popular with the people.
Okay.
Because he is coming up with with an idea. And my brother is saying that what the Deputy President is doing is giving wheelbarrows. No, that is not the hustler nation. That is not the bottom-up economy. Bottom-up economy is not about giving wheelbarrows. Wheelbarrow is just a symbol. At the moment, we know that he from 2018, from the handshake in, I think it was March 2018, he has been out of government, so there is nothing much he can do. But what he is saying is giving people a substantive agenda of what he will do come when he is elected. He is saying that he will concentrate on the people who are in the bottom of the chain, so that now the economy can stop trickling bottom up, but now it can, from top bottom to bottom up. And when you look at, the economic statistics, Bangladesh is, one of the top growing economy in the world. And that is the strategy that the Prime Minister in Bangladesh used. So I think this is something that I think, in my own view, is something substantive. All other competitors, we have not had any of the agenda. What we are seeing is BBI and I don't know what. So I think let them come up with an agenda, let them sell to Kenyans. Okay. When you look at the moment, we are getting around our budget. We usually have a budget deficit, so we have to go and borrow loans. But with the bottom-up economy, when you empower someone, you know, in the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid is always, you know, have a big size. So meaning the people at the bottom are very many. If you empower these people, they will be able to pay taxes, and the country will have enough money to run, you know, do infrastructure and other things. So I think let all the candidates coming for next year's, all potential candidates, let them not bring us, you know, coalitions. Let them bring a substantive agenda, because next year's something that is for sure. Next year, we have majority of the young people will be voting. These are people who don't know anything about tribes.
Okay, Kalisas, I'll let you weigh in on the same.
Okay. When my friend is talking about bottom-up economy, without suggesting anything, that is just an empty statement. And that is the political mistake we are going to make in 2022. Someone cannot just come here and tell you that there is bottom-up economy, then he is supplying you with wheelbarrows. Where William Ruto has been supplying wheelbarrows. People have seen him in several places giving people wheelbarrows. Then all of a sudden, when Mhisa Kitui came with a narrative of building, reviving economy, reviving companies that are falling, now they changed. Everybody is trying to talk something, like Raila is just running with anything. He can just say anything. These other grouping, Gideon Moi, Kalonzo Musyoka, these are lazy people. They are just there, they think they will forge something, then people blindly follow them. I think the conversation that we need to have, how are we going to fight corruption? That is point number one. The Deputy President has been mentioned in several instances where he has participated in corruption. That is not me. The writings are on the wall. Therefore, if this country we are losing 2 billion on daily basis, and the president has not done anything, he is at Mombasa talking about BBI. He has done anything? He has done nothing to seal the loopholes of the money that we are losing. So there is rampant corruption in the country. Okay. Misuse of public funds and resources. These are when we will take power with the Mhisa Kitui leadership, under Mhisa Kitui leadership, we'll be able to see all these loopholes. We'll borrow a leaf from Tanzania, where President John Pombe Magufuli, he took over when Tanzania GDP was around 3%. But until recently, when he passed away, he had transformed that country to almost 8 GDP. Okay. Therefore, we need to seal corruption. We cannot support corrupt individuals to join government with a false narrative of bottom-up economy. We cannot support an opposition, Raila Odinga, who has decided to go sleep in Jubilee. He has been knocking on doors of Jubilee since 2013. Until the doors was open, he decided now to support each and everything that the government is doing. He doesn't care about the resident of Kisumu. He doesn't care about Kenya.
Okay, so we need to move on.
Interest.
So, Jake, and I know you will weigh in on the same. And so, coalitions, the One Kenya Alliance, do you think that has a chance in the 2022 general elections?
First of all, take you back a bit again on these issues of coalitions. You know, properly organized coalitions end up winning elections and form government. Since the introduction of multi-party democracy in Kenya in 1992, there have been coalitions made. Of course, the first one was supposed to be the Coalition for Restoration of Democracy, FORD, which split immediately after each of them wanted to become president and made President Moi to win election that way. So after that, coalitions have been made. In 1997, there were coalitions, of course, post-election coalitions again. There were coalitions in 2002. There was a coalition in 2002 which was properly organized and which took power. What mistakes many of the presidential candidates or aspirants make is making coalitions and remaining in their parties. if they fold their political parties and have one single party. You know, coalition really does not mean that you need to have
a fallback plan.
Or your parties together, all of them. When you bring all of them, like what Jubilee did, folding all of them, having one political party, that one will resonate very nicely. And then coming up with an agenda that resonates with the people directly. And that has helped a lot, for example, around the world. Like if you check what the leader of Brazil did, he went to power because of bringing something like this William Ruto is talking about, a wave, something that is really selling to the people and like a hustle or something. So if you checked around the world, most of the leaders who have been elected, even the Prime Minister, Chancellor of Germany, she also went to power using such kind of a wave. Back then in the United States of America, in fact, I remember, I resonate the kind of things which the DP is doing with one of the presidents of America, also known as William Harrison, the 9th president. He came up with something like this hustler, and it took him to office. Of course, he lasted there for very, very few hours, not even days. He died after winning that election. Okay. So properly, if coalitions are organized properly, they can take power. But what we are seeing, you cannot be meeting in Nairobi, discussing on how you will take power, and you don't meet people. First of all, start from the ground, prepare ground, and connect with the people. The challenge we have now, like what we see in One Kenya Alliance, is that they meet from one place to another, but they don't have a specific agenda of going to talk to people. They are not regular in talking to people. They are still talking about who will become a candidate. And that may have a very big problem with them.
Could slow them down.
They may take time to decide who will become a presidential candidate. Okay. And when another person is always on the ground, then that will have a very big challenge. Unlike Raila Odinga, who is very popular, even if he did not have any of these persons already on the ground, he is a step ahead of some of these people who are in One Kenya Alliance.
Okay, so we need to finish.
Yes, him and like my friend said, him and Ruto are clearly the candidates who are from the front runners in this election. Then the One Kenya may produce a candidate, of course, a third force.
Okay, so as we conclude, I'll let you just weigh in a little bit about the IBC preparedness. Because this has been the last week for the commissioner interviews. So what do you make of it? And following the by-elections that we've had, do you think IBC is now set to run the 2022 general elections? So in very few seconds, yes, Wangai.
Yes, I think it is set to run the general election. In the budget that has been passed, they've been allocated a good amount of money to conduct an election. Also, the High Court in the BBI judgment, it had advised that it is not fully constituted. So I think after the interviews, we will have now a fully constituted IBC. Okay. So now they can have adequate time to prepare for the election. Okay. Also, I also want to note that I want to acknowledge and appreciate that it has been very independent in conducting its activities. In Kiambaa, we saw many policemen were sent. In Juja, the same thing. But what happens is that the IBC has remained independent. So I think they are very ready to conduct an election.
Yes, Jacob, very briefly.
Yeah, I am very pleased with the progress so far about the interviews. And I know that finally we will have proper persons sitting in that IBC. You know, this commission is not just any other commission. It's the most important commission in the Constitution of Kenya. There is no commission which is superior than this one. Because if you check through even the qualifications of persons, in fact, like the chairman's qualifications are indicated there. So I just want to say that so far from the progress, I'm pleased with the progress, and I hope that this IEBC also will do us justice during the time when they will be interviewing presidential candidates. Okay. They should interview them, take them through the questions like the ones they're asking the candidates to become. Yes, that way.
So, Kalesas, yes, in very few seconds as we finish.
IBC need to pull up their success because as from Kiambaa by-election, they took more than 20 hours counting 40,000 votes. Therefore, it means in 2022, they will be counting more than 25 million votes. Therefore, it means their preparedness. They need to up their cam. I also expect after the interview, maybe the commissions will join. The IPC will help improve on whatever they have been doing. But so far they have not impressed me, because it means when if we could be holding election, they couldn't give us the best credible election. I think that's what I can say. But from what I have observed from the by-election, there is a problem in their efficiency. They are not effective to give us credible and accurate result.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation. We have been talking about political intrigues this week. Of course, the Kiambaa aftermath and different political leaders wooing the coastal vote, and the IEBC preparedness come the 2022 general elections. Of course, they've been under scrutiny following the Kiambaa-Muguga by-elections, and we will be keeping you up to date as and at when the commissioners will now be the verdict will be out and will be picked out. This is The Week in Focus. I am Nancy Nadima. Thank you so much for watching.
We value